Morning. We made it. It's Tuesday. Monday's behind us. I feel like if I can connect with you and we can connect before noon, then I can still say good morning, right? I'm like, as long as I show up before noon, I'm still saying good morning. So, good morning. This is the Journey of Mela Lifestyle Morning Moments, Madness, and Meditations. If you're just joining us, my name is Camila Tibbetts. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and this is our morning meditation. And it originally started with me sharing my journey of launching my lifestyle brand and website, Mela Lifestyle. That's MELA Lifestyle. And originally I just, I've scaled and built two brands in the past, and this is just a new venture for me. I feel like this is my passion project. I feel like this is why, I feel like I found my why. If you don't know a lot about me, like I moved from San Diego to New York City. I'm an empty nester. I've launched two young adult children, and I'm just a caretaker and a homemaker and a career woman and a girl's girl, and so affirming. Like I'm all the things, right? I feel like before I tried to put myself in all these boxes, but I just care about people, and I care about seeing them living out the fullness of who they are really in their home. I believe that what we're doing here at Mela Lifestyle, it's more than a lifestyle, it's a movement. So this is just you and I every day, like our little play day. You want to play? Like our little play date, right? Like this is our morning play date. Like who says kids just have to have play dates? So by the way, I was never a play date mom. Like that was not my thing. Anyway, let's take a sip and just get started with the day. Hi, everybody. I usually don't say hi because I get super distracted. So like if you're waving, I love that you're waving. Like I see the waves, but like if I stop, there's no telling what trail I'll go down and it will get back to the meditation. So anyway, I just want to start your day check-in. We always do like the madness check-in parts so you can see how it's going with me, because when you're launching everything, it's just not okay, you started and it's done. There's so many bumps along the road, like things you get to learn, opportunities for growth. And I shared yesterday about I incorporated my business earlier in the year, but I just launched my business in New York City, and I just launched my business 2 weeks ago. So I was sharing how like I got a letter from the government, and like I was like for my taxes for the year, and I was like, what? Like what the what? Like I just launched my business. So it's all communication, right? Like, so if you were wondering like what happened with her, like everything's fine. I talked to my accountant. It's just more communication. But one thing I really thought about, like when I got that certified letter from the government and I saw that number, it's like numbers, when you're starting something, either if you own a business or even if you're negotiating like your worth in a career or whatever that looks like, you can't be afraid of numbers, right? Like that number can't scare you. So I really want you to start to be comfortable with numbers. And like I'm not a mental math girl. Like I'll break out a calculator at any moment, but numbers can't scare you. Like when I think about my profit margin, my inventory, like my purchase orders, like when I got that letter, like you can't be afraid of numbers, so. And I want you to think about that, if not only if you're starting something, but if you're negotiating, right? Like, the negotiation, I always say the negotiation starts with no. So if someone says, well, what's your number? You see that awkward pause? Well, what's your number? You need to be able to know what your number is, right? You also need to be able to know what your number is not, right? Like if you're really passionate about something, you're like, I really don't have a number. Like this is I can't be bought. Like this is what I choose to do. And if you're in more of a corporate setting and you're negotiating salary and you're looking for a job, you need to go into every situation knowing what your number is, right? Like knowing what your non-negotiables are. So what's your number is not our meditation, but I just wanted to share that with you and just let you know that everything comes down to communication, everything comes down to transparency, everything in business comes down to knowing what your number is, everything comes down to being willing to negotiate, being comfortable with the silence, and really having those clear conversations. It was a great conversation yesterday with one of my team members, someone that I work with. And, for me, and I share this a lot at Mela Lifestyle, like who I am as a founder, I really want to reflect that in my walk and my talk of what the brand is, because I know I've had experiences or I've read about, a brand is a certain way, and then people's personal interactions with the founder can be different. So for me, like when I share my journey of things that I do, I always want to, if I say it's about a lifestyle, it's about a movement, it's about showing up, I want to reflect that in my conversations and in the people I do business with. And sometimes you really want to look at, like, if you're closing a deal, if you're communicating about something, sometimes it's okay to leave something on the table. Sometimes at times we live in a culture, it's like, I'm gonna get mine, like at any cost. But for me, and I would encourage you, be okay with leaving a little something on the table, because that's what, and people are always going to be left with you. People are always going to be left with their experience of you. So if you're working with someone and maybe you don't work together anymore, or maybe you're going to go in a different direction, leave something on the table. And I'm not always talking about leaving something financial on the table in a deal. I'm saying like leaving, like how you communicate, how you're gonna book in this project, how you're gonna book in this conversation, like what are the action items that you're gonna go in after that. Like you don't wanna be this tornado where you're like doing business in a way where like it's at any cost, and people like have all these, it's like, ow, like, people have all these bruises when they interact with you, because you still are your brand. Like you may not have a Mela Lifestyle, or you may not have a fill in the blank of a company that you like, but who you are is always, and people will interact based on that. So I really want you guys to leave something on the table. And just really, like, when you think about the grit that you have, grit there was a time in my life where I felt like my grit had to be very aggressive, like you'll need me before I need you type of thing. But now when I operate from a place of grit, or when I operate from a place of knowing, like I can do that in a way that sits well with me, and that's representative of like my passion, which is Mela Lifestyle. So that's that. So that's the madness of yesterday, right? Like my accountant, the conversations, leaving something on the table. It was Monday, right? So it's just like, I had I really wasn't impressed with my dinner last night. I had like salmon and roasted cauliflower. It's like, it's so boring. But I got through Monday, I'm showing up today, and that's what we do, right? We talked about it like over and over, we show up. If you go to our meditation yesterday, it's like over and over we show up in the midst of what's ever going on, even when it's tough, even when there's a trial, even when it's uncomfortable, over and over we show up and we get the reward. There will be a sweet reward when you show up. But, I digress, because that's not our meditation today. So our meditation today is, I really want to talk to you. It kind of goes along with the madness and leaving something on the table. I really want you to think about like you're a mirror, right? And the idea that, when you're doing a negotiation or when you're going after something, sometimes it's not no, it's just not now, right? And so when you get a no, don't feel like, I'm so like, I'm so devastated. They tell me no. Like when you get a no, sometimes no is just not now. And then I think about like the times when I wanted to launch my own little brand in the midst of owning a larger company, and it just didn't happen. And like now that I look back and landing in New York, I can see that it wasn't that it was a no back when I was in San Diego. It wasn't that it was a no back when I had these other two brands. It was just a not now. And like now is the time. And I remember like being in, having this public persona, and then like going having like counseling or therapy, whatever you want to call it, because you always want to balance that, what's going on personally with who you are as a leader. And I remember a counselor telling me like, you're just a mirror for people, Camila. And I was so sensitive at the time, right? Like how people would respond to me or not. And I remember him saying like, you're a mirror. And so that's what I want you to think about today. Like, stop taking everything so gosh darn personal. Like I really, it's not always about you. Like you're a mirror. So when you walk into a room, we don't walk into a lot of rooms right now in this season, but when you walk into a room, when you're engaging with someone, when you're on that Zoom conference call and you turn your video on, a lot of times you're just a mirror whatever's going on in that person. So and you have to realize it's not about you. So like if I'm happy, I'm in a good mood, I'm like moving, doing this, I'm full of peace, I'm full of joy, and I go into a meeting and that person may have had like a really hard day, and all my sunshine they are not feeling it, and their response to me has nothing to do with me. So the first meditation today is like, you're just a mirror. To not take everything so personal, to not think that the way that people respond to you is ever really about you. Like 9 times out of 10, people are dealing with their own stuff, right? And so remember that when you engage with someone, and like for me in my experience, when I engage with someone, like I can watch and how they move, and like who I am doesn't change and my stance doesn't change because I'm watching like how they're responding. And I can see a lot just in my presence. We talked about that yesterday, the idea of showing up and being present, just in my presence and just in my listening, right? Because people will tell you who they are, right? If you give them an opportunity, shut your mouth, people will show you who they are. You just let them listen, you know. And the same thing is in negotiation, right? So like if you're negotiating something, you know, a lot of times that pause, you know, really being comfortable with that silence and that pause is where usually the other person is going to become so uncomfortable that they're going to start talking again. And in that you can get a lot of information. But again, we always still want to leave something on the table. A negotiation isn't about just taking everything and putting it in our pocket and going, right? So we're really, you're negotiating all the time, right? You think like, oh, I'm not in business, I'm negotiating. No, that's not true. If you're dating, you're negotiating like what's important to you, where you want to go for dinner. If you have like, if you're renting an apartment, you're negotiating the rate of your apartment. You're always negotiating, and you always have that power in you to communicate. These are the things that are important to me. So first meditation this morning is the mirror, not to take everything so personal. The second meditation I want to give you, because you know I'm a word girl, right? So the second meditation I want to give you is like the testing, right? So everything's not rainbows and unicorns. So like I always want to encourage you that trials are going to come. You're going to have your valley moments and you're going to have your mountain moments. But when you're being tested, right? Over and over, I keep getting tested, like over and over, like people, you know how the kids say, like people keep coming for me. Like everyone's coming for me. Like, yeah, you know, if everyone's coming for you, like you may have something that they want, right? If everyone's coming for you, it's not always a negative thing. It's like, oh, I'm transitioning to another level, or there's something on me that I'm moving a different direction. And sometimes people only want to deal with you in the area that they met you, right? So let's say you had a friend you met in college, right? You met him or her in college, like you guys were students, you guys were well and out, everything's great, and you transition and you have a partner, you transition and you get married, you transition and you start to have a family. Like that person only wants to know you the way they're comfortable in this really small place. So as you start to build and as you start to grow, just like in our last meditation, like everyone can't come with you. It doesn't mean that you cut people off, but you have to remember that people are sometimes comfortable with you in the area that they know you, that how they know you, right? But your responsibility to yourself is to not stay small to get other people to continue to like you. Your responsibility to yourself is not to stay small, to make everyone else comfortable with your smallness, right? And so when I talk about testing, our second meditation today is like there will be a test over and over, but like your test will be your testimony. And what do I mean by that? Your testimony. Like a lot of people hear testimony and they think religion, and like this is not about that. Like I'm really talking about a relationship that you need to have with yourself and with your own power, right? And so if you think about your test will be your testimony, you know I'm a word girl, so I always like to give you guys definition. So I looked up testimony. I used to always tell my kids this, like look it up in the thesaurus. Like I always like the thesaurus versus a dictionary because they give you like quick words, right? Quick access, quick words that your brain can translate to think about it. So I looked up the word testimony in the thesaurus online, and it says affirmation, evidence, proof, right? So when I say your test will be your testimony, I'm saying whatever you're going through, wherever you're being tested, wherever your trial is, that's going to give you the proof of who you are. That's going to give you the evidence of your walk. That's going to give you the affirmation that you're in the right way. So every time the trials come or people start to come for you, oh, she tried to come for me. Like, okay, great. Like someone tried to comfort you. So in this moment, like how are you going to rise up over and over in the midst of that happening? Because like someone told me, like, Camila, everyone's not going to like you. And I was like, why? Like, I'm a good person. I'm funny. I'm a great friend. I'm charismatic. I'm going to make you a good meal. Like, I'm loyal. I'm ride or die. Like, what? everyone's not gonna like me. And it's like, no, everyone's not gonna like you. So when people start to come for you, maybe that's an example of like you're going to a place that you can't take them with you and they're not comfortable with. So your test will be your testimony. Your test will be your evidence, right? Your test will be your proof. Your test will be your affirmation. So if we think about our 2 meditations today, the first one is the mirror, right? Like stop taking everything so gosh darn personal. I'm gonna I get really intense about that because you cannot take everything so personal. Like you can't, like you just can't. So meditation number 1. The mirror, stop everything so personal. You're just a reflection of you're just a reflection of what's ever going on with that person at all. And I feel like we need to like drill this down going into Thanksgiving when you're dealing with family and in-laws and cousins and aunties, but we're gonna stay focused for today, right? So the mirror. So first meditation, the mirror. You're just a reflection of whatever's going on with that other person. Stop taking everything personal. It has nothing to do with you. Second meditation is your test, is your testimony. And what do I mean by that? I mean your test is affirmation, evidence, and proof of you're on the right track, that you have a bigger calling, a bigger goal, a bigger plan for your life, and you're just being tested so you can remain strong, right? Because when we're tested, we have a choice in that moment, right? When we're tested, we have a choice of what we're going to do. Are you going to shrink? Like when you're tested, you have 2 choices. Are you going to shrink and play really small to make everyone comfortable with their own feelings, or are you going to stand up? And so at Mela Lifestyle, we really talk about people being fully known in who they are, right? People fully being known in how they're going to stand. And so I want to ask you today, I want to ask you this Tuesday morning, like, what will you stand for in the test? Who will you stand with in the test? And what is your why? Because when the trials come over and over again, we stand, right? When the people start to chatter over and over again, we stand, and we stand strong in the knowing that there is something greater, that we are being tested over and over again, so for something greater. I always tell my kids, like, I want my ceiling to be their floor. What do I mean by that? I mean that however high I go, where I cap at the end of my journey, and this is not the end of my journey, we're just getting started, but wherever high I go, wherever my ceiling is, I want that to be my kids' floor of where they launch. Like my mom, you know, didn't play small, and she went here and on uncomfortable times. Like my mom didn't play small, and like she is scrappy and you know, and launched a business in the midst of a pandemic. My mom didn't play small and like moved across the country, wasn't worried about what people said about her, but knew like she had to have peace and joy for herself as a woman. And so when I think about that with Mela Lifestyle and this journey that we're on together, I want my ceiling in whatever it is, I want that to be the floor of this movement that we create, right? All of the tests and all of the trials and all of the lessons that I've learned, the ceiling and where that cap, I want that to be a floor of something greater for you. So again, I'm gonna ask you, what will you stand for? Who will you stand with? And what is your why? So thank you for joining me this morning on the journey of Mela Lifestyle. I always like to honor your time and just get scrappy. Like don't be afraid to get scrappy. Don't be afraid to get messy. Like don't be afraid that it has to look a certain way, because what's for you is for you. We talked about that in my last meditation. And also I'm super excited because tomorrow we're going to do an IG Live with the founder of one of the brands that we carry. She's just a powerhouse female founder who just has, it's her own story to tell. But we're gonna go live actually on the Mela Lifestyle IG page. So that is at Mela Lifestyle. That's our Instagram for the brand. And so if you can, join us tomorrow. I'll put some information out in my story, but the IG Live will be on Mela Lifestyle's IG. So thank you for joining me this morning on the journey of Mela Lifestyle. And remember, it's more than a lifestyle that we're creating. It's a movement. So stand up. Let's get it. Bye. Ciao for now.